Let's continue in the topic of Al-Muhkam wal-Mutashabih, taken from, and we are reading an excerpt from Al-Itqaan fi Ulumi al-Quran by Imam As-Siyutiyy. Here's a title here. This title is not originally from the book. The wisdom behind the ambiguous verses. But there's a few paragraphs that have this meaning, so this title was put here. We read some of that last time. Let's continue. We're going to start with a quote from Imam Al-Khattabi, rahimahullah ta'ala. قال المؤلف رحمه الله قال الخطابي قال الخطابي رحمه الله المتشابه على ضربين. The ambiguous is of two types. أحدهما ما إذا رد إلى المحكم واعتبر به عرف معناه. One of them is that which, when referred back to the when referred back to the unambiguous, the explicit, the decisive, muhkam, and when considered in light of what is unambiguous, wa'atubira bihi, that which when it's regarded in accordance with, in the light of here means in accordance with what's unambiguous, urifa ma'nah, then its meaning becomes known. والآخر ما لا سبيل إلى الوقوف على حقيقته وهو الذي يتبعه أهل الزيغ فيطلبون تأويله ولا يبلغون كنهه فيرتابون فيه فيفتتنون. The other, so the ambiguous is of two types. That's what we said before. He said one of them is the one that if you refer it back to the muhkam, then you will know what it means. So that's what we are saying. There's a type of ambiguous or ambiguity in the Quran that these scholars can decipher. And we say that's by referring it back to what's explicit. The other type of ambiguity is that which its true reality has no way to ascertain. That which you can never know its ta'wil. ما لا سبيل إلى الوقوف على حقيقته. What has no way to discover its reality. This is the one that the people of deviation follow. Okay. Here. He says, وَهُوَ الَّذِي يَتْبَعُهُ أَهْلُ الزَّيْغِ. This is the kind that the people of deviation follow. So what did we learn here? We learned that there's two recitations of the ayah. To understand this topic, you need to understand that ayah. I feel like we maybe didn't even talk about that ayah enough in preparation for this lesson. As if we jumped into this ayah, assuming this topic, as if we jumped into this topic here, this whole excerpt, assuming that the people know the ayah, the 7th ayah of the 3rd surah. We're now in the water now, though. So we're going to keep going. He said here, the other kind of ambiguity is the one that you have no way to know. And he says, this is the one that the people of deviation follow or track or pursue, seeking its interpretation, but never reaching its essence, yani never reaching its reality. Kunhahu. So they fall into doubt about it and are thus led into trial. We'll come back to that, inshallah. But this part where he says there's two types of ambiguities. One type can be explained, another type cannot be explained. The type that cannot be explained is the kind that the people of crookedness follow. So what we learned is there's two recitations for the ayah, first of all. Therefore, the word ta'wil in each recitation has its own interpretation. And therefore, those who are dispraised for seeking the ta'wil of the mutashabih or tracking the mutashabih, seeking its ta'wil, are two different groups. So this quote has them as one group. According to what we learned, this quote is missing something. Yani, if I start from the top, the ambiguous is of two types. One of them is that which, when referred back to the unambiguous and considered in light of it, its meaning becomes known. This one is the people of deviation. Some of them follow this kind, some of them track this kind. And the other kind of ambiguity is that which no one can know what it means. And there are some other people of deviation who track this kind. So, MashaAllah, may Allah raise the rank of Shaykh Abdullah. Ameen, rahimahullah ta'ala. And became clear that this topic is a very delicate one. And by this topic, there is a display of the merit of the Shaykh, rahimahullah ta'ala, because he taught us about the muhkam and the mutashabih before we took what As-Siyutiyy said. And then we understood it and didn't know what As-Siyutiyy said. Then when we read what As-Siyutiyy said and compared it to what the Shaykh said, some things come to light. Yani, if you only heard what the Shaykh said about it, you say, this is so easy and so clear. Alhamdulillah. But when you look at what As-Siyutiyy documented in comparison to what the Shaykh said, then you can see that a lot of scholars were missing something. Something here, something there, in this case. So it became clear from all these quotes, and so many of them missing something here, missing something there, that this is a delicate topic. And, Yani, it only makes sense, really. Look at the ayah. هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب. He it is who revealed to you the book, O Muhammad. منه آيات محكمات. From it are explicit verses, unambiguous verses. هن الكتاب. They are the of the book, the reference and the majority of the book. وأخر متشابهات. وَأُخَرُ مُتَشَابِهَاتٍ, and others are ambiguous. So, this means the ones that are ambiguous need to be referred back to those that are unambiguous. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ زَيْغٌ فَيَتَّبِعُونَ مَا تَشَابَهَ مِنْهُ. As for those who have crookedness in their hearts. They pursue, they track what is ambiguous therein. Ibtigha al-fitnah, to cause trouble. That's a paraphrase. Wabtigha ta'wili, and looking for its ta'wil. This right here, ta'wil, right here, according to one interpretation means something, and according to according to one recitation means something, according to another recitation means something. So, right here, notice the double meaning because of the two recitations. So that's why it makes sense that it's going to be so easy to slip here or miss something here or not quite get your finger on something here. Ibtigha wabtigha ta'wili, and seeking its ta'wil. This has one meaning according to one recitation and another meaning according to another recitation. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ, and no one knows its ta'wil except Allah. That's one recitation when you stop there. Here, ta'wil means something. Also notice, the word ta'wil is mentioned twice here. This is the second time. وَابْتِغَاءَ تَأْوِيلِهِ, seeking its ta'wil. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ, and no one knows its ta'wil except Allah. According to one, when you recite it this way, this has a meaning. Or وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ ibtigha al-fitnah, they do it to cause trouble. وَابْتِغَاءَ تَأْوِيلِهِ, and seeking its ta'wil. Here, ta'wil means something. وَمَا يَعْلَمُ تَأْوِيلَهُ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ, no one knows its ta'wil but Allah and those who are firm in the knowledge. So you see how this ayah has dual meaning because it has two recitations? That's very nice. That's very profound. When people do it in poetry, they find it profound. When the poet says a line, it has double meaning. When you look at it this way, it means something. When you look at it the other way, it means something else. This is impressive, especially if it makes sense and it's worded nicely. So, yes, it became clear for me, not by studying what the Sheikh said, but by studying what As-Siyutiyy said, how delicate the situation is. Studying what the Sheikh said, I would have thought how firm the case is, and how clear and firm and easy it is. Very delicate case here. And also, As-Siyutiy's presentation lacks an important point, an important word that will clarify greatly what he's presenting here. And that word is kathra. Kathra, frequency. Isn't As-Siyutiyy telling us there's two groups of Ahlus Sunnah? A group that interpret ambiguities and a group that does not interpret ambiguities? That's what he's saying. And what he really means is the frequency, not absolute. We said that. I did tell you. It's not a hard line, although you might get an impression like that between these two groups that As-Siyutiyy is talking about. It's not a hard line. There is a word, kathra. Some of them, they did make ta'wil. Tafsili, detailed ta'wil, even not though bi kathra, not a lot. So since they didn't do it a lot, it might be said about them they didn't do it. Yani, what was more frequent from them was to give a vague explanation, like to say, whatever it means, we believe in it. Allah knows what it means. And others, they really do hold the position that whatever it means, we believe in it. Allah knows what it means. But they will explain with details, with more kathra, with more frequency. Since they have more frequency in doing that, it would be said they interpret the ambiguities. So let's look at Al-Khattabi's statement again. He said the ambiguous is of two types. One of them is that which, when referred back to the unambiguous and considered by it, in light of it, its meaning becomes known, like istiwa, the meaning of istiwa, like the meaning of nuzul. That's from the hadith, though. If you noticed here, As-Siyutiyy never talked about those hadiths. He didn't talk about hadith of the slave girl. He didn't talk about hadith of nuzul because he's talking about the Quran. The book that this is taken from is about Quranic sciences. But the hadiths in this regard have the same judgment. Yes, more frequency, I can explain. Let me first finish reading here. So Al-Khattabi said the ambiguous is of two types. One of them is that which, when referred back to the unambiguous and considered in light of it, its meaning becomes known, like istiwa, or other things, like wajh. وَيَبْقَى وَجْهُ رَبِّكَ. The wajh here is that. فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ. The wajh here is jihah. The other is that which its true reality has no way to ascertain. When shall judgment day be? When shall the impostor come out? No one knows but God. Then he said, as if the people, the crooked people, didn't track the first kind, as if the crooked people didn't track the first kind of mutashabi, he said about the second kind, this is the one that the people of deviation follow. So he's missing something there. Rahimahullah. Rather, some of the people of deviation follow this second kind. Those are the ones trying to figure out when judgment day shall be. And some of them track the first kind. Those are the anthropomorphists and their likes, like the destiny deniers and the terrorists. He said, seeking its interpretation. So when it comes to those who try to determine when judgment day will come or when the imposter will come out, this is the ta'wil they are looking for. Is the word interpretation the best word here? I have doubts about that. For me, when you say interpretation, seems to mean you're talking about words, statements. The word ta'wil here is broader than that. Some people are seeking the ta'wil of judgment day. I wouldn't say it means the interpretation of judgment day. It means when it will happen, when it shall manifest. And they are seeking the ta'wil of when the imposter will come out. I wouldn't say interpretation here. So let's just say ta'wil. But never reaching its essence. Yani, they never get to the truth. Whether the anthropomorphists or the other ones, Those who try to find when judgment day will happen, those were Jews. So they fall into doubt about it and are thus led into trial. What's this talk here? They fall into doubt about it. So the scholars, they said that when the crooked people indulge in the mutashabi, their hearts actually become plagued with doubt. So if that's true about a Wahhabi, then imagine, subhanallah, what's going on inside of there. So this is the statement of Al-Khattabi. They fall into doubt about it and thus are led into trial. And we have here the statement of Imam At-Tahawi, rahimahullah. I'll just read the English, that's all that's here. At-Tahawi said, and he was talking about seeing God, but he has a statement here that's relevant to the topic. He said, all that came about this topic of seeing God in any authentic hadith from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is as he said. All that came about this topic in any authentic hadith from the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is as he said and means as he meant. So that's how the people who observe vague interpretation talk. We do not engage in this topic of seeing God with reinterpretations by our opinions. Meaning, the ayah means you'll see God, and then they try to explain it somehow because they don't agree that God can be seen, so they're going to pervert the ayah. That's what he means here. We don't engage in this topic with reinterpretations by our opinions, nor as delusional pagans by our witless desires. Yani, nor do we engage in this topic of seeing God delusional, meaning as imaginers. We don't engage in this as imaginers. We don't engage in this as opinionated ones. That's a shot at the Mu'tazila. And we don't engage in this as imaginers, as delusional ones. That's a shot at the anthropomorphists. He said, indeed, the issue is that no one is safe in his religion, but who surrenders to Allah as a worshiper and surrenders to the authority of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a subordinate follower. And he recognizes his place as a subordinate follower to the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. Subordinate to the Messenger, follower of the Messenger. And he refers the knowledge of what he finds ambiguous to its knower. Meaning, he says the one who knows it, knows it. Whatever it means is true. This statement of At-Tahawi here could refer to even a scholar. That he's saying, the one who doesn't grasp something here, let him forward the knowledge of what's ambiguous to him to whoever knows it. This could mean even if that's a scholar. Yani, let him say the scholars know. Meaning, let him say, I will be silent here. I don't know, but others know. So now just putting this here, that sheds some light on At-Tahawi's statement there. Because aren't we saying there are some people who are what? راسخون في العلم يعلمون تأويله. They know it. They know the ta'wil. There are those who are firm in the knowledge, and they know the ta'wil. And it's possible that this statement of Tahawi here means God. If so, it should be a big K. And he refers the knowledge of what he finds ambiguous to its knower, to God who knows. Then it's going to be closer to the way of the people who give vague interpretation. Al-Tahawi said, a foot is only firm in Islam upon the stable back of submission and concession. Yani submission. Put your opinions to the side, not your sound mind. Don't put your sound mind to the side. Employ your sound mind. Put your positions, your opinions, and your desires to the side. Whoever desired knowing what he was barred from knowing, and his comprehension was not satisfied with submission. Yani anyone who could not submit to something because of his lack of comprehension. He could not humble himself. Yani, he's the kind of person who only accepts what he can understand. So, as if he doesn't see the limits of his own comprehension. He's delusional then. If you know the limits of his comprehension, or that at least that his comprehension has limits, then he will be able to accept what he cannot comprehend. When we say he can't comprehend, it does not mean it doesn't make sense. He is the one who cannot comprehend it. Doesn't mean it doesn't make sense. He said, whoever desired knowing what he was barred from knowing, and his comprehension was not satisfied with submission, then, ironically, his goal will be his very impediment. What's his goal? His goal is to know something he can't know. He wants to know something he's unable to know. Now, so that's his goal. And this thing, his goal is his very own impediment that's slowing him down. If he would just submit to what he cannot comprehend, he will be able to keep going forward. Ironically, his goal will be his very impediment, obstructing him from untainted monotheism, obstructing him from unadulterated knowledge, and obstructing him from correct faith. Then, Al-Tahawi says, he will go back and forth between disbelief and belief, and verifying and belying, and confession and denial, and he will be haunted by whispers, and lost and doubtful, neither a verifying believer nor an outright belying denier. And he's not a verifying believer means he has doubts about something. And he's not an outright denier because he confirms something. So this is amongst the statements of the scholars who are saying that the one who indulges in the mutashabih in the inappropriate way will become plagued with doubts. وقال Ibn al-Hassar said, قسم الله آيات القرآن إلى محكم ومتشابه. Allah divided the verses of the Quran into muhkam and mutashabih. Okay. وأخبر عن المحكمات أنها الكتاب. And he informed or told about the muhkam verses that they are the base of the book, the of the book. Yes. لأن إليها ترد المتشابهات. Because the ambiguous ones are referred back to them. Yes. وهي التي تعتمد في فهم مراد الله من خلقه في كل ما تعبدهم به من معرفته وتصديق رسله. And they are the ones, those muhkam verses, relied upon in understanding what Allah means for his creation and everything by which he has obligated them. So Ibn al-Hassar, he's saying, like some of the scholars said, we saw that muhkam verses include obligations. He said, they are the ones relied upon in understanding what Allah means for His creation and everything by which He has obligated them of knowledge of Him. Yani He obligated them to know about Him and belief in His messengers, and He obligated them with compliance with His commands and avoidance of His prohibitions. So all of that, how is it known? Ibn al-Hassar is saying, by the muhkam verses, they are the reference. He said, وَبِهَذَا الْإِعْتِبَارِ كَانَتْ أُمَّهَاتٍ. By this consideration, they are bases, the muhkam verses. References. ثُمَّ أَخْبَرَ عَنِ الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ زَيْغٍ. Then he told about those in whose hearts is crookedness. Then he told that those in whose hearts is crookedness, أنهم هم الذين يتبعون ما تشابه منه, that they follow what is mutashabih. Yes. ومعنى ذلك, the meaning of this is أن من لم يكن على يقين من المحكمات, that whoever is not certain of the explicit verses, yani he doesn't know which ones are explicit and then is sure about them, because the mushabbiha, they don't even know which ones are the explicit ones. They reverse the whole thing. So the meaning of this is that anyone not certain of the muhkamat and having doubt and suspicion in his heart, وَفِي قَلْبِهِ شَكٌّ وَاسْتِرَابَةٌ, كانت راحته في تتبع المشكلات المتشابهات. Then his comfort, his pastime lies in pursuing what is problematic, the problematic ambiguous matters. It's not the ayah that's problematic. Don't confuse things here. Don't let the devil trick you. The ayah is fine. The ayah is a miracle amongst the miracles. But it is the crookedness of the heart that's the source of the problem. The way the ayah is posed exposes the crookedness of the heart. The way the mutashabih ayah is posed, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-arsh istawa, ما منعك أن تسجد لما خلقت بيدي. The way the ayah is posed brings out the crookedness of the heart of the one who has it. His comfort lies in pursuing the problematic, ambiguous matters. ومراد الشارع منها التقدم إلى فهم المحكمات. ومراد الشارع منها التقدم إلى فهم المحكمات. So this one, anyone not certain of the muhkam verses and anyone having doubt and suspicion in his heart, his comfort lies in pursuing the problematic, ambiguous matters, while what the lawgiver means by those verses is that one should proceed to understand the muhkam verses and prioritize the bases. The lesson that the Ashari, the lawgiver, or the lawmaker, that's God in this context. Sometimes Ashari could mean the prophet, then it means the lawbringer. Here, Ashari is God, the lawmaker or giver. The lesson that the lawmaker put in these mutashabih verses, the lesson that he put in these mutashabih verses is for us to prioritize the proofs, to learn the lesson of prioritizing evidence, to put the explicit ahead of the ambiguous. And from there's other prioritization of proofs, if you remember some usulul fiqh lessons. I see where a nice footnote can get squeezed in here somewhere, inshallah, when I come back to review it. So what he wants to do is indulge in the ambiguities, while what the lawgiver meant for those verses is to teach us the lesson of prioritizing evidence. Not to indulge in ambiguities, but to prioritize evidence. What the lawgiver means by them is that one should proceed to understand the muhkamat and prioritize the bases. ومراد الشارع منها التقدم إلى فهم المحكمات وتقديم الأمهات حتى إذا حصل اليقين ورسخ العلم لم تبل. Might need a correction in your copy here. This is a correction here. What's here is a correction. If you need to, you can fix your copy like this. لم تبل بما أشكل عليك. So he said, so that, yani, learn how to prioritize the proofs so that when certainty is attained and knowledge is firmly rooted, you will not be troubled by what is unclear to you. Subhanallah, how the Quran gives such insights. What do those scholars who know the whole tafsir of Quran, they memorize the Quran, all the recitations of the Quran, what do they understand? Allahu Akbar. May Allah grant us more comprehension. Ameen. So that when certainty is attained and knowledge is firmly rooted, you will not be troubled by what is unclear to you. وَمُرَادُ هَذَا الَّذِي فِي قَلْبِهِ زَيْغ. The intent of the one in whose heart is deviation or crookedness is التقدم إلى المشكلات وفهم المتشابه قبل فهم الأمهات. The intent of the one in whose heart is crookedness is to proceed to the problematic matters and to understand the mutashabih before understanding the bases. وَهُوَ عَكْسُ الْمَعْقُولِ, which is the opposite of what is rational. هُوَ عَكْسُ الْمَعْقُولِ وَالْمُعْتَادِ وَالْمَشْرُوعِ. This is contrary to what is rational and customary, meaning normal. It's not normal, it's abnormal. And it's contrary to what is legislated. Let me finish this quote of Ibn al-Hassar. He said, وَمِثْلُ هَؤُلَاءِ, not مثل, وَمَثَلُ هَؤُلَاءِ مَثَلُ الْمُشْرِكِينَ. Such people are like the polytheists. The case of those is the case of the pagans, the idolaters, the polytheists. الذين يقترحون على رسلهم آيات غير الآيات التي جاءوا بها. Those polytheists who demand signs of their messengers other than those that they brought. Yani, the prophets come wielding miracles, the disbelievers witness those miracles or know about them by confirmed route, and yet challenge them with other miracles. They were not satisfied with the clear sign that they were given. Such people are like the polytheists who demand signs out of their messengers other than the signs that the messengers brought. They already did signs. Yakfi, that was enough, sufficient for you. وَيَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ لَوْ جَاءَتْهُمْ آيَاتٌ أُخَرَ لَآمَنُوا عِنْدَهَا. And they think that if other signs came to them, they would believe at that point. Show me such and such. Then I'll believe. That's what you did. I will do such and such. Let me see that. I'll believe if you do that. So they're not going to believe. Allah told us in the Quran. The people who say that, they don't believe. وَمَا عَلِمُوا أَنَّ الْإِيمَانَ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى. They did not know that faith is only by the permission of Allah. Exalted is He. Intaha. End quote. MashaAllah. Nice. Praise and thanks are due to Allah. Any question? Mubarak, those of you who are attending these lessons, I'm very happy for you. I think, Yani, you're not going to get these lessons another time. Well, I'm putting them on YouTube, but it's a good chance you'll never get these lessons again.
Should explain more frequency, please?
Yes. Yeah. The frequency means, didn't As-Siyutiyy, rahimahullah, say, there are two groups. One group makes ta'wil, and another group does not make ta'wil. That's what he said. And we clarified, though, that it's not a hard line difference between these two groups. Really, they're blended. One of them makes ta'wil more frequently than the other and is more willing to make ta'wil than the other. One of them makes a ta'wil and talk about specific, determined alternative interpretation less frequently. So those who don't do it as frequently, like those who would rather say, pass it on as it came without how, and it means whatever Allah meant. So those who prefer to explain this way, since they don't frequently give very determined explanation, it might be said about them, they don't make ta'wil. Some scholars, they word it this way. That's amongst also what's going to come here in what As-Siyutiyy produced. And the Shaykh also produced some such statements. And he clarified, those who said the Salaf didn't make ta'wil, either they meant they didn't make specific ta'wil frequently, or else they are mistaken. Those who said the Salaf did not make ta'wil, so that's their statement. They didn't make ta'wil, quote unquote. The Shaykh said, either they mean they didn't do it frequently, or else they are mistaken. Means they definitely did make ta'wil. Even if on occasion. Ta'wil here meaning specific, determined alternative interpretation. Look, here, As-Siyutiyy, he explicitly said the second group, those who don't make ta'wil, they have the stronger position. That's what As-Siyutiyy said. He himself, we're going to see, he gave explicit ta'wil. He himself. We're getting closer to where he starts talking about the attributes. He's going to say, Yed means this, Ain means this, Wajh means this. So he's going to do exactly that. So what's the meaning then of strengthening the madhab of those who don't make ta'wil? What it means, according to those who talk like that, is that the way of those who don't frequently make ta'wil is the preferred way. That's clear. Ta'wil in this context meaning explicit, determined meaning, not vague meaning. Okay, you're welcome.
Assalamu alaikum, Shaykh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
I was trying to, maybe you can help me out, inshallah. Like the last class, it was something that was you were saying where you went back into As-Sirat to look at
Yeah.
the Shaykh said,
Yeah.
and then As-Siyutiyy, rahimahullah, he was talking about the two Sunni groups, though, right?
Correct.
And then, but is it safe to say that the Sheikh extended it to the like Wahhabis?
In a way.
How
Yeah,
did that
his
happen?
talk is inclusive of those. Meaning, you're on the right track. You're hot there. Which is that what the Sheikh was doing was saying there's two warring factions here. Two warring factions. One faction makes ta'wil. One faction claims to deny ta'wil.
Mm-hmm.
And As-Siyutiyy, when he talks about the two groups of Ahlus Sunnah, he's not saying that any of them deny ta'wil. There's a word, nafi. Nafi means denial.
Mm-hmm.
Wahhabis are nufatu ta'wil, deniers of ta'wil. Yani, inconsistently though, hypocritically.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the position that they say outwardly. We don't make ta'wil. So that's a method. This method here, this crooked method, As-Siyutiyy is not talking about it.
Okay.
So there's three groups involved here. It's possible to say there's two groups involved. The two warring parties that I just told you about, those are Ahlus Sunnah versus the deviant ones. Most prominently, those deviant ones are the anthropomorphists.
Right.
But also the deniers of destiny, they bring ayat that they mix up. The terrorists who say that if you commit a major sin, you're a kafir, they bring ayat that they mix up. But most prominently here, we're fighting with the mushabbiha, the anthropomorphists.
Okay.
They are deniers of ta'wil, and Ahlus Sunnah are committers of ta'wil. And these people, Ahlus Sunnah, who commit the ta'wil, there are two groups of them. One group, what they have in common that makes them one group is that they don't take those ambiguities literally. That's what they have in common. They don't take those ambiguities that the anthropomorphists cling to literally.
Okay.
How do they differ? They differ in that the majority of the early ones preferred to be vague about these verses and hadiths, not to be specific. And it was predominantly the practice of the latter day ones, to be more specific, because they saw that there's a need, there's really an emergency for this. Because the layman, the average layman is not safe, cannot settle with such vague explanations. He comes to the sheikh worried. Well, sheikh, I met this guy, he has long beard, he has big prostration mark. He smells like oils from all the way down the block. And he told me that Allah is over the throne. And he said Allah comes down in the last third of the night. And I told him, well, Allah exists without a place. And he told me if the messenger of Allah said that Allah is in the sky, then Allah is in the sky. What do I say to him? So if the one he goes to tells him, whatever these mean, we believe in them, this might not be enough for that layman.
Mm-hmm.
So the latter day ones saw it as really an emergency. It has to. This is urgent here. We need to give determined meanings for the sake of the layman in particular, to protect them from slipping in their creeds. So those are two parties from Ahlus Sunnah against the deniers of Ta'wil. So you might say there's three parties here. Really, there's two parties here. The two parties are joined. They're like Siamese twins.
Barakallahu fiqh.
Ameen Wafiq.
Sheikh, this one, mashallah. This is going to be one of my favorite lessons. I'm going to save this one.
Alhamdulillah. Allah is merciful.
Ameen.